And hello one and all, and welcome to my weekly review for both NXT and this week's edition of the Cruiserweight Classic. This week we're going to be mainly focusing on the Cruiserweight Classic because this week's edition of NXT was really about highlighting the events from the spectacle of NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. However, we did have two matches on last night's edition of NXT that were taped prior to TakeOver Brooklyn in the Barclays Center, so we had a raucous crowd in store for the match between the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, and Wesley Blake. Dillinger was massive over. This was his return to NXT after what I was assuming was possible injury that he was dealing with, because we haven't seen him in quite a while. But it was great to see Ty Dillinger back on NXT TV. A fairly standard match here with Wesley Blake, but it was nice to see Ty Dillinger get the win here. It's been a while since he's been able to put together a couple wins, so hopefully this is the renewed emphasis on Ty Dillinger and just giving him a chance and opportunity to shine here in NXT. And then our second match of the evening on NXT was the Authors of Pain taking on TM61. The Authors of Pain continue their dominance and path of destruction. They knock off TM61 here. I felt it was the right way to go with this match. You want to continue to build up the Authors of Pain as this dominant, unstoppable force in the NXT Tag Team division. They continue to grow as workers in the ring. So I'm excited to see where they go. And despite losing, I thought TM61 put up a good showing against the much stronger Authors of Pain. So we'll see what's in store for both of these teams. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this week's edition of NXT. Like I said, not too much to talk about until we get the next set of tapings from Full Sail. So not going to give this week's edition of NXT a grade. Like I said, just those two matches and a lot of showing the fallout from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn with well put together video packages on each of the respective matches. So we're going to shift gears here and focus on what took place on this week's edition of the WWE Cruiserweight Classic. This was the final three matches in the second round of the Classic. And once we move on from the quarterfinals, we will move into the semifinals. So tonight's edition of NXT, we had what I thought were three pretty enjoyable matches. We had our first match, which was against Lince Dorado from Puerto Rico versus the always energetic Rich Swann. Rich Swann is quickly becoming one of my favorites to possibly win the Cruiserweight Classic. He just brings a ton of energy, a ton of charisma to his matches, and this was certainly on display here. What I thought was a really good, solid opening match against Dorado. Swann doing a little dancing early on in the match, and then Dorado would try his hand at doing a little dancing early on in the match as well. So I thought that was fun. That was something nice to see. But this was just action all around. There was a springboard missile drop kick from Dorado. There was a very nice vicious knife edge chops that both guys were landing to one another. Nice series of forearms that they both delivered to one another. There was a nice attempt where Swann attempted to go for a Frankensteiner. Dorado was on the top rope, and they both knocked each other's down with double scissor kicks that were in sync with one another. So that was really good looking. And towards the end of the match, Swann would attempt to go for the standing 450 splash, but Dorado was able to counter with getting his knees up, so that only led to a 2 count. Dorado attempted to hit Swann, but Swann hit a leapfrog over Dorado, and Dorado hit a reverse Hurricane Rana for a 2 count. Another really nice spot here. And Dorado attempted to go for the shooting star press, but Rich Swann was able to roll out of the way, and he hit his own Phoenix Splash for the victory. So right guy goes over here. Rich Swann advances into the semifinals of the Cruiserweight Classic. Like I said, both of these guys really brought their A game to this match. Thought it was a really solid, enjoyable match in the Cruiserweight Classic, and just a good way to kick things off this week for in-ring action. We We then had our second match of the evening, which was Drew Gulak versus Zack Sabre Jr. I'd have to say this is probably my match of the night. This was just a really good technical match from both Gulak and Zack Sabre Jr. Definitely Sabre Jr.'s best showing. He's able to show why he is truly the technical wizard inside and outside the ropes of the ring. Just the way that he was able to get out of each of the respective holds that Gulak was able to put on him was certainly something tremendous to see. And, yeah, I just thought Zack Sabre Jr. and Gulak certainly, he didn't pull no punches here. He certainly took it to Sabre Jr., and there were several moments where I thought, maybe Gulak would be able to beat Zack Sabre Jr. But alas, like I said, towards the end of the match, Gulak attempted to go for a sunset flip, and Gulak eventually goes for the Dragon Sleeper, but Zack Sabre Jr. is able to get a roll-up with a bridge to pick up the victory. So I thought it was a really nice finishing sequence, the way that Zack Sabre was able to maneuver from the Dragon Sleeper and then lock in the roll-up with the bridge to, keep Gulak from kicking out. Impressive victory. Like I said, both guys really put on a clinic in there. It was definitely my pick for match of the night. Happy to see Zack Sabre Jr. advance into the third round of the Cruiserweight Classic, and he definitely has what it takes with his technical skills, his just ability to dodge in and out of harm's way. It's definitely a unique style, and one that I think will benefit him moving into the semifinals and eventually potentially the finals of the Cruiserweight Classic. So good stuff from these two guys. And then we had our main event match of the evening, our third match, probably my second favorite match of the night. All of these matches were good. The Cruiserweight Classic, once again, proves to be the most consistently enjoyable, product. Next to, of course, probably NXT and SmackDown being put out by WWE. It just is something different. It represents, a sports type vibe, feel, and it really shows through in these matches. With the time limits, I really like how they have those in the Cruiserweight Classic, and it certainly adds to, well, if both of these guys go to the time limit, then neither qualifies. So certainly evident in this match between TJ Perkins and Johnny Gargano. They went out there and they had a really good match. Like I said, probably my second favorite match of the night. Big fan of Johnny Gargano, and quickly becoming a fan of TJ Perkins, the way that he just displays his style and just shows it in the ring, really, with his prowess. Him and Gargano went out there and they told a really good story in the ring, and these two certainly gave it to one another. There were some nice kicks by Johnny Gargano that sent TJ crashing to the bottom. He had a nice knife-edge chop. There was a O'Connor roll that Gargano hit on Perkins that led to a 2 count. There was a really nice leg scissors takeover by Perkins, and then Gargano was able to hit a nice-looking kick to the side of the head of Perkins. I always love when Johnny Gargano hits that flying spear. He successfully connected to Perkins, and he hit 3 consecutive knife-edge chops, so chops were connecting. There was another really nice spot later on in the match where Perkins hit a double knee buster, but that only led to the 2 count. And there were a series of forearms that Gargano hit onto Perkins, and then eventually Perkins goes up to the top rope, and Gargano hits a standing enziguri to TJ Perkins, and Perkins gets trapped in the knee bar by Johnny Gargano, or traps Gargano in with the knee bar, and then Gargano counters with the crossface submission, but Perkins is able to get to the ropes, and then Gargano attempts to hit the lawn dart onto the second turnbuckle pad, causes Perkins to hit into the second turnbuckle pad with the lawn dart for a 2 count, and then Perkins attempts to go for the enziguri, but Gargano is able to drop Perkins with a nice looking super kick, and Gargano goes for the dragon suplex, but Perkins is able to counter out with the knee bar, and this leads to Johnny Gargano tapping out. So while I was rooting for Johnny Gargano, I certainly wasn't disappointed to see TJ Perkins advance. Like I said, he is becoming another one of my favorites to watch in the Cruiserweight Classic, and him and Gargano went out there and had an enjoyable main event match. Like I said, all of these matches were good from start to finish. Fastest hour to watch from WWE programming on the network. Good stuff all around from the third round of the Cruiserweight Classic, and these are the quote-unquote Elite Eight that are going to be advancing to the semifinals of the Cruiserweight Classic. We have TJ Perkins, the Brian Kendrick, Grand Metalik, Rich Swann, Noam Dar, Kiri Tozawa, Zack Sabre Jr., and Kota Ibushi. So some phenomenal talent. We're going to be getting some good matches next week and the following week leading up to the Cruiserweight Classic final on September 14th. And of course, we've got the relaunch of the Cruiserweight division, which will be happening on Monday Night Raw on September 19th. So great stuff all around if you're a fan of the Cruiserweight Classic. If I had to give this week's show a grade, I would probably just give it a solid A. This was an A show. There really was nothing bad about it. Just some really good Cruiserweight action all in all. So yeah, those are my thoughts and opinions on this week's edition of both NXT and the Cruiserweight Classic. Let me know down below in the comments section what you guys thought of both shows. Was enjoyed getting that feedback, and be on the lookout, of course, for my next video here on YouTube, whenever that may be. And I will catch you guys later on. So everybody have a great day, and I will see you later.